with the town for almost 50 years. So much so that in 1974, I received an invitation to walk across the stage, High Point Andrews Gym, and receive a diploma. When I took that piece of paper, I felt three emotions. I felt a sense of pride, a sense of empowerment, and a sense of excitement. I knew that through hardworking teachers who had served as educators, mentors, and disciplinarians, that I had been instilled with the knowledge and the values that was going to allow me to tackle the challenges that were in my future. When the students of Guilford County walk across that stage in 2017, they need to be handed more than just a diploma. They need to be handed a lifetime of opportunities that are made possible by the life skills and the academic skills that they learn through education. I hope to have the opportunity to represent District 6, to advocate for those children, and to make sure that they had that same quality education that I received as a student, so that they too can tackle those skills that lay before them.
All right. Kim, since you're running for District 6, I'm going to ask you to speak next.
Thank you. I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. I really think that it is so appropriate for us to be gathered here today. Being a woman of faith, I think that this is a great opportunity for all of the candidates, and that I hope that this will be an example to a lot of our other faith-based organizations to also take this lead and being at the forefront of everything that's going on in our communities. I am originally from Brooklyn, New York, and I'm a mother of 6 children. I relocated to North Carolina by via of my husband's employment opportunity. And I have to say that in Brooklyn, I served on the community school board there for at least 3 terms. So relocating here definitely took me away from what I had a great passion about, and that was seeing children in schools and working with teachers, working with principals, working with superintendents, working in the whole community, being able to go in and out of schools every day and see what is happening on a day-to-day basis. And I really missed that in relocating here. So I decided when the opportunity came that I would put my name on the ballot. So I'm very passionate about public education. As I said, I have 6 children, and they have attended different types of schools. They have tried the so-called schools of choice in New York City, so I have a great understanding of the charter school movement and the movement to privatize public education. I am on the board of Parents Across America, which is a national organization, so my advocacy does not just stop locally, but is also on a national level. And I'm expecting to win on November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you. Anita, we'll go back to you.
My name's Anita Sharp, and I'm a school board candidate for District 2. I want to thank Mount Zion Baptist, the Civic Engagement Team, and Bishop Brooks for putting on this forum tonight. I served on the Board of Education from 1990 to 2008. In 2007, when we experienced the devastating downturn in our economy, because of my job, I made the decision not to run in 2008, and I've regretted it ever since. As you know, the things have improved a little bit in the economy, and I'm now in a position to come back and serve the children. I believe in public education. I believe that every child has the right to a public education. I know a lot of you in this room, you know me, I work hard for you and your children. And one of the things, we've probably had 15 of these forums throughout this campaign season. This is an absolutely wonderful brochure, but if you look on page 25, you will see that my opponent gave no response. That's another reason why I'm running. In order to serve the children and the parents in the school system, you have to be out in the community. You have to be out there listening. I want to be out there hearing what you have to say. I've responded to every invitation, and I will be in the schools getting the firsthand look at what's going on, what's working, and what is not working. Your board is a policy setter. I work well across the aisle with the board members. I am a Republican, but when I sit at that board table, I'm not anything other than a board member representing your children, and thank you again.
Okay. Angelo?
Hi, my name is Angelo Kidd, and I am running for the District 3 seat for the Guilford County Board of Education. And before I go any further, I also want to thank everyone in the building, Mount Zion, Bishop, for this wonderful opportunity. I'm humbled to be here. I'm honored to be here. Again, Angelo Kidd, live in Greensboro. I'm running for a District 3 seat. I am a Democrat. I'm not a politician, but I'm running. And why am I running? Well, I recently retired after nearly 46 years in education. Yes, 46 years. 21 of those years were in the classroom, teaching English and history and coaching. And I always say, to look at me, you never knew I was a basketball coach for 20 years. All I have to do is to stand up and you'll realize the importance of that. I had a 7-footer who made me a pretty good coach. And I also spent 19 years as a principal, including schools such as Southeast Guilford High School, Nathaniel Green Elementary, Northeast Guilford High School, Northwest Guilford High School, and I was fortunate to show improvement in each of those 3 high schools I was principal of. Very proud of that. Then I spent nearly 6 years as regional superintendent supervising 30 schools and was instrumental in helping a couple of schools turn around, namely Oak Hill and Fairview, to rise from the ashes to a new phoenix. The one school, Oak Hill, at one time was the lowest performing elementary school in the state of North Carolina. And in a short time, we rose to a national Title I School of the Year. I'm not running on a partisan agenda. I'm not running to use the position as a stepping stone for another elected position. I'm running to give back to the community and to the kids. Angelo Kidd.
All right. Mary, would you pass her the mic, Mrs. Kidd?
Thank you. I'm Mary Catherine Sauer. I'm running for District 5 for the Guilford County School Board. I'm first a parent. I've got 4 children, and I've also been a tutor and an academic advisor. I've founded 2 charter schools, Cornerstone Charter Academy and Piedmont Classical High School. In all of those different positions, I've gotten to see students from all across Guilford County. I've tutored students from lots of different schools. We've got some problems here in Guilford County, let's be honest. If you have money, you've always been able to get your child a great education in Guilford County. Guilford County Schools does some great things like their magnet school program, but you have to be lucky. The best magnet schools have waiting lists. You have to either be lucky or have money where you can move into a good school district or can afford to homeschool. It is not okay that we're leaving students behind. It is not okay that we have an almost 90% graduation rate, but we're graduating kids and giving them diplomas who can't make it at community college, who have to take remedial classes and spend money to learn to read. We need to be graduating kids that can read, that can do the basic things, that can go right into whatever they want to do, whether it's a career or higher education. We need to do a better job. We have a school board now that's asleep at the wheel, that it's not uncommon for them to spend 4 hours in a school board meeting and not talk once for 1 minute about academic achievement. Well, that should be their job. We should be paying attention to academic achievement. We need more focus on teaching kids to read. There's just no excuse. They want to blame everybody. They want to blame the parents. They want to blame the General Assembly because we don't have enough money. If a child walks through the door at a Guilford County schools, it's our job to educate them. We need to stop blaming other people and take responsibility for doing our job. I think every student deserves a great school, and that's going to be my focus, is making sure every school in Guilford County is a great school.
All right. Okay, Lois?
Is this working?
Oh, yeah, sure.
My name is Lois Bailey. I'm an independent candidate for school board. And the incumbent is not here. I have great respect for the school board. I know it's a tough job dealing with parents, teachers. I have a lot of respect for the school board. And the incumbent has been on the board for 16 years. So I think sometimes change is good, and sometimes change is needed. I've been in education over 30 years. I have a doctorate in education. I've been a teacher. I've worked with teachers. I was a participant of a Fulbright Hayes scholarship to Jamaica to study diversity. And I led many workshops for teachers on instruction, diversity, and gender. So I feel like I have the experience, and like doctors' boards need doctors, I think school boards need educators. I get concerned when I see headlines like this. This is not about students. This is about grading schools and grading teachers. This is not about students. So this is what concerns me. I think that some students climb up on broken staircases while others zoom up on elevators. And every child can learn, but they learn differently. And I started the school myself, but I didn't use taxpayer money to start it. It's still in operation today. It's a preschool, and I donated it to the church. So I'm a public school advocate. The public schools teach everyone with learning disabilities, with special needs, and who speak a foreign language. So I really am here to support public schools. Thank you.
Thank all of you for your intro. Certainly we're concerned about the minorities who are suspended from school at a higher rate than others. But I want to just ask each of you, what do you see as the greatest need of our public schools now? There is an array of problems, and we all will acknowledge that. But what do you see as the greatest need right now in our public school systems? I will start with you, Ms. Irby.
Thank you. I work at Pierce Elementary, so I have the opportunity to work with teachers every day. And working in an after-school program, I find that there are great needs. And in interacting with my teachers, I find that it's overcrowding in the classrooms. Teachers, we have a swell of students in certain schools. Like you said, parents move to a certain community so that they can access a great school. So then what happens? Overcrowding in our classrooms. And then we have teachers, K-2 teachers, that need that type of assistance in the classroom. So I think that we need to develop a strategy around lowering class size and ensuring that every student gets the attention that they need in the classroom, and ensuring that our teachers definitely are supported in that classroom experience, because we know that teaching and learning, 90% of it is based on the teacher's ability to bring forth the education in the classroom.
All right, Ms. Bailey?
I think there are so many problems in the schools today. It's very difficult to be a teacher. I think teaching is one of the most important things you could do. We change society, we educate the doctors, lawyers, and so many successful people. I think one of the problems is that there's too much testing going on in the schools. Teachers don't have time to teach. A friend of mine said that at the beginning of the year, she had to assess her class. It was like 28 students, second grade. She had to pull them out one at a time, and she had to leave her class behind. So if she had a teaching assistant, the assistant would be back there, but most teachers don't have that anymore. So she said it took 3 weeks to assess at the beginning, 3 weeks during Christmas, and 3 weeks at the end of the year. That's valuable learning time. And I think we have to, Einstein said that we could standardize cars, but not people. So we have to do away with standardized testing. Thank you.
She has a mic there. You can take that back. No problem.
Okay,
Mayor?
well, as you said, there are lots of needs, so it's difficult to find the greatest one. So I'm going to kind of overreaching is leadership and focus. We're focused on the wrong things. We're getting distracted. We're focused on blaming people instead of solving the problems. where we have a high graduation rate, but graduation rate is continually increased in the last 4 years, but there's been no coordinating increase in academic achievement. We've lowered suspension rates. We've lowered suspensions for African Americans in the last 4 years, but there's been an actual increase in incidences of misbehavior. We need to focus on the kids. We need to focus on academic achievement. We need to make decisions based on what's best for the kids and not what's best for the administration. We gave Mo Green's been gone. He left last March, but we are still paying for his entire family's health care on the backs of our students. We need to get resources back in the classrooms. We need to focus on what's best for kids and making decisions based on what's best for kids.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kidd?
You're right, it's hard to narrow it to just one issue. One thing that I'm concerned about is the shrinking teacher pool of candidates. We're not seeing people go into colleges and universities with the idea that they're going to become teachers. It's shrinking to the point where we're going to be facing an extreme shortage, just not a shortage, but an extreme shortage very, very soon. I was working with a teacher this morning, walking the neighborhood, and he said he recently came back to the education, and when he put his application on the statewide website, he had hundreds of calls telling him that they were very interested in hiring him today if possible, because they were still showing a shortage of 100 teachers to start the school year. So I think the greatest, and we have a lot of issues. Literacy, of course, is one. But the biggest issue is we're going to run out of people who are going to go into teaching, so we have to also beware of people not being prepared to go into administration as well.
Thank you. Anita?
There are a number of issues, but if I have to name one, it's the top issue. It is the literacy. I've spent the past 8 years in a volunteer tutor program. I didn't just retire and sit around doing anything. And what I have seen is a lot of the kids know the words, they can read the words, but when it comes to answering the questions, they have no comprehension. We can teach that. We need to focus on it. And one thing that if you watch the board, if they decide to focus on something, they're usually pretty good at accomplishing that. So I would like to see them focus on literacy and graduating students who can read and read well, because if they can do that, there is no limit. They can do anything they choose to do.
Thank you. Wes? You're on.
I would agree that these academic issues need addressing and addressing quickly, but I would suggest to you this afternoon that the biggest problem facing the school board is the inability to make strong financial decisions in the interest of the children. When you waste millions on defective digital tablets and mismanaged construction funds, the money runs out, and it's all within the control of the board to conserve and spend these dollars wisely. I'm a small business owner. I'm a general contractor by trade. I know how essential it is to properly evaluate construction bids, to select the right contractor, and to implement a project management program that succeeds. When this school board allows cost overruns in projects such as High Point Central, where you're going to have $9 million that you have to account for and displace students for 2 years, it's not in the best interest of the students. Bring back fiscal responsibility to the school board, and these academic issues can be funded and solved.
Thank you.
I agree with a lot of what I've heard up on this podium tonight, but the absolute number one difficulty in Guilford County Schools, in my view, and where we should prioritize, is to help particularly our at-risk, high-poverty schools and families have their children reading at grade level by the end of 3rd grade. So much hinges on reading and reading proficiency. Surrounding schools to Gate City, that's opened up on off of East Wendover, surrounding schools, those children are reading at about a 20 to 25% proficiency at the end of 3rd grade. That's totally unacceptable. If they are not reading at proficiency by the end of 3rd grade, they never catch up, and it becomes increasingly more difficult and more problematic as they go into 4th and 5th grade, and they get frustrated, problems are created, eventually, studies have shown that 50% of our incarcerees were not reading at grade level by third grade. 50% of our street people and our substance abusers, reading, reading, reading.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gladden.
Thank you. As the only candidate running for District 7 who attended the fall retreat for Guilford County School Board, I will have to agree with our administration that it is infrastructure, particularly our long-term economic infrastructure. Guilford County Schools owns more property than any entity in Guilford County. We own approximately 127 schools, and we are appropriated approximately $6 million from our Guilford County commissioners for maintenance and repair. Speaking of repairs, we currently have a repair bill over $89 million, including 4 HVACs that are set to go out, one being at one of my schools, Lincoln Academy, and the approximate cost for that is over $4.5 million. When you look at what it would take to fix and repair every issue that we have in Guilford County in terms of a bond, we're looking at over $500,000. So I will have to say, and agree with Guilford County Schools, that our long-term economic infrastructure, how we're going to maintain and service our schools. At Rankin, which is the largest elementary school in Guilford County, also in my district, we have over 800 students, and we are expected growth in terms of classroom to students, -8 classes for next year, which means we don't have enough room for the children who are coming.
Great, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I would say the answer would be literacy, and I think we need to do assessment on our children and find out where they are and to provide resources for our children. Not only that, we also need to make sure that our students, when they graduate, are college and career ready. Our students that are graduating, as was stated earlier, some of them cannot read on in high school level. So in order to make sure that happens, we need to make sure, start at early intervention, make sure at elementary schools, our kids have the resources they need to make sure they are reading before third grade on level, and make sure that they continue to read by providing resources for our students and also for our schools. Thank you.
All right, we're going to let you do your 1-minute summation. I really do wish I had time to just drill much deeper, because our kids' livelihood is at stake. And unfortunately, because of the forum, we don't have that. But I want to say this to I say it. Go ahead, do your summation.
Okay, my summary is, again, my name is Betty Jenkins. I'm running for District 7 Board of Education. And what I was trying to say earlier, got caught off for time, was because my name was not on the ballot early, it's because I decided to run after the deadline, and I had to go out and get 1,600 voters to sign my petition in order to get my name on the ballot. I succeeded that by getting over 2,100 names to be placed on the ballot. So that tells you that I had the eager to work for our children, to work for our schools and our community. Otherwise, also, when I be placed on the ballot this time and hopefully win the election, I will come back to my community, talk to my community, talk to our parents, and bring the information back to my fellow board members, because there's nothing like sharing information that you receive outside to bring back to the fellow board members to let them know from what the parents, what the community, and what the students, what they want and what they need to be successful. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Gladden.
Hi, thank you. Again, my name is Byron Gladden. I am very excited to work and represent District 7. I have a number of endorsements, including our very own Mayor Nancy Vaughn, our Mayor Pro Temp Yvonne Johnson, Gladys Shipman, Dr. Goldie Wells. But the most important and significant endorsement has to be with our Guilford County Alliance of Educators. That's our teachers union. You trust your teachers, and by unanimous vote, they trust me. And that is what I'm asking you to do as voters. They were, after I received the endorsement, I did an interview, and they happened to hear my opponent go on record stating that teachers are not teaching our children, substitute teachers are. And so I believe our teachers show up, and I believe our teachers engage our students, and that is why I have their 100% vote of confidence and support, as well as with the community and every grassroots organization in Guilford County that supports children. Again, my name is Byron Gladden. Vote for me. You'll be glad you did. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Byron.
You're welcome, Alan.
My name is Alan Hawks. I'm running for at-large school board. I'm running against a 16-year incumbent who is a very charming school board chair. I like him, but under his watch, Guilford County has 39 failing elementary and middle schools. Totally unacceptable, unaccepted. We should and could do better. My mantra is every parent a choice, every child a chance. I think every child in Guilford County here, particularly in the elementary schools, needs to be reading at 3rd grade. Now, I don't mean literally every child. If we can get it to 80% instead of the average 50%, this would solve a lot of problems down the road for Guilford County schools. In at-risk, high-poverty neighborhoods, we're lucky if we're getting 20, 25%. We can do much better. We need somebody who's seen how it is done and it works. I've seen it all over North Carolina. I think Guilford County schools can be a stellar school system, and we can get those children achieving.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
As I listen to all the problems that have been identified today affecting the Guilford County schools, I nevertheless remain encouraged and optimistic because of you. Your presence today indicates that with the selection of the right Board of Education, that these problems can be addressed, your children can be taught, and that this school system can reach its maximum potential. I passionately believe that education is a difference maker in the lives of young people. I'd like the opportunity to provide them with that education to make sure that their lives are fully enriched and that they can go forward knowing that they can meet the challenges and succeed.
Thank you. Anita?
Again, thank you for having us here today. This has been a very well-run forum. One word in general is when you go to vote, please vote the entire ballot. Most people stop about halfway through, and we're at the bottom, along with the judges. So just vote all the way down, please. And I have a couple of promises that I will make to you that I will keep. I will work for your children. Every vote I cast will be cast in the best interest of the children. I will be available to you. You can call me probably not 3 o'clock in the morning, but you can call me anytime. My numbers are public. I will respond to you. I will help you with your problems. I will help your children. And again, thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here today.
All right. Angelo?
Thank you. I've already mentioned 46 years of experience, and if elected, I'll be the only board member with experience at all 4 levels of public education: elementary, middle, high, and central office. I've been on the inside looking out and the outside looking in. I've been endorsed by 5 major organizations: the Guilford County Association of Educators, the News and Record, just as of today, the Greensboro Real Estate Association, and as well as the Triad Labor Council. I want to say a little bit about literacy. You know, literacy is the focus of every teacher from day one, but we're still not getting the job done because we're not dealing with the barriers that keep kids from reading. Barriers such as our own implicit biases, barriers such as our expectation gaps that we all have and we must deal with. So I'll be there to work on that because I know what's going on in schools because I've experienced it firsthand. Please vote Angelo Kidd for kids.
All right. Mary?
Thank you, and thank you so much for the opportunity to come here and talk about this. I'm passionate. I love talking about education. So please feel free to call me. I would appreciate your support. I've got a website, and you can call me at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Don't call me, though. I'm sorry.
If I don't answer, I'll call you back. We have some problems. We have some problems that aren't going away, have been getting worse. We know that there's an achievement gap when kids come into kindergarten, into the school system. But I don't know if you know this, but the longer they're in Guilford County schools, the wider that gap gets. We're not doing something right. We need a better way to do it. We need a school board that's not asleep at the wheel. We need a school board paying attention to things. We are right now in Guilford County spending more money per student than we ever have before. We're spending more money on K-12 education in Guilford County than we ever have before, but we're not seeing results of that. I think partly we need to be more fiscally responsible. In addition to paying, I like Mo Green, he did some great things, but in addition to paying for his health insurance for his whole family right now, even though we have a new superintendent, our school board, our current school board gave him $30,000 in essentially cash as a parting gift. That's irresponsible. That $30,000 could have bought lots of stuff for our kids. Thank you.
All right.
I'm Lois Bailey, and I too petitioned to get on the ballot because I felt it was very important. And what I want to say is that schools mirror society. They mirror society. If there's a drug problem in society, we teach it. If kids aren't having breakfast, we serve them breakfast. So schools are asked to do so many things. And the public schools are asked to do more and more with less and less. And I would say this, I've been in education for a long time, and I could say on one hand, I could say on this hand how many bad teachers I've seen. The teachers I've seen work hard, they're there till 7 o'clock at night, they care about your child, they buy their own supplies, so I don't know anybody who works harder, so I just want to say that.
Thank you. All right.
I would like to say that I am, again, very passionate about being a part of the school board of Guilford County. My children have been served well. I have a child that attends STEM Early College at A&T. 2 of my children attend school in High Point at Penn Griffin School for the Arts. I'm a parent that's very engaged in the school system. And I do believe that that is an area that needs to be uplifted. Parents vote, and parents need to be empowered, and parents need to be at the forefront of guiding their children's education. And that is something, a voice that needs to be lifted on the school board, that as a parent, an active parent, a parent that's also part of the Guilford County Council of PTAs, I'm fully engaged on a daily basis and working with our community, which is very important. I believe that I represent the community and that I will not act on anything that the community has not told me to do. I will vote according to how the community moves me. So if parents say yes, I say yes. If parents say no, I say no. Thank you.
I'd like to take this time to thank all of you, number one, for caring and desiring to care for our children. The next group that's coming up is lawyers and judges. It's a whole lot more of them than they are of you. What you do is prevent them from having a job. And so if you could, in fact, do a great job, their job would be a lot easier. I challenge each of you, no matter who wins, to give our kids the best possible chance for success in Guilford County and North Carolina so that we can make the world a better place in which to live. Thank you so much. That's good. Seat, Samet seat, Sherelle seat, and as soon as the names are set, we're going to call you forth. And I do want to thank the audience again for your participation and, of course, for your involvement, as it were. I am literally overwhelmed at the fact that all of you are so patient. Someone asked me, I think it was Pete who asked me, how in the world could you have a political forum when A&T is having a game? And I said to him, because this is a game of life. Football, A&T is playing a game of football, and so this is critically more important than a football game, because Careers are dependent upon what happens here today. Lives are dependent upon what happens here today. Our community is dependent upon what happens here today. And to some great extent, the whole world is dependent upon what happens in the great state of North Carolina. So judges, if you would please come forward, or candidates. All right, anybody need a stretch? Okay. If you do, just raise your hand and I'll come take up the offering. It's like Sunday morning. All right. Well, thank all of you again for coming, and I know it has been a long sit for you, but your job is critically important. For those who make mistakes, certainly you make the difference. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to start with Mr. Morgan. You get 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you,
Just to
Bishop
remind-
Brooks.
Yes.
And I'll stand if it's okay, because the
Yeah.
podium is blocking the view of some folks.
Okay.
So thank you very much for this opportunity. It's great to be back here at Mount Zion. I had a very uplifting Sunday morning service 2 months ago, so it's always good to be here on this sacred ground. My name is Judge Mike Morgan, and I am a candidate for the North Carolina Supreme Court. I hail from New Bern, North Carolina, a small town in southeastern North Carolina. I'm a product of the New Bern public school system. During the course of my public school education, I had two very pivotal moments in my life. When I was 8 years old, as a fifth grader, I integrated an all-white elementary school, Trent Park Elementary School, one of 5 black students to enter the public school system in that year of 1964. Also, as a high school junior, I was the first black drum major of our only public high school. Therefore, I was the face as the ambassador of our high school band as we traveled around doing parades and football halftime shows. I went to Duke University, graduated from there, undergraduate history and sociology. I graduated with honors from North Carolina Central University School of Law. I've had a 37-year career in the law, the last 27 years on the bench of this great state of North Carolina, 11 and a half current years as a Superior Court judge, 10 and a half years prior to that as a district court judge, and 5 years prior to that as a state administrative law judge. Altogether, 27 years going in ascending order as I continue to elevate towards the North Carolina Supreme Court. In addition to being a judge in the courtroom, however, I've also been in the classroom as a judicial educator. I've been teaching judges from across the country how to be better judges, being a faculty member at the National Judicial College, the preeminent institution for judicial education. I was awarded last year with their coveted National Teacher of the Year award. I'm also very active in the community. I'm seeking on those bases to be on the North Carolina Supreme Court. Thank you for your consideration.
All right. Yes, sir. Mr. Jones?
Good afternoon. I'm glad to be here. I came to your service not long ago and enjoyed your service. My name is Abe Jones. I'm the only Abe on the ballot in North Carolina this year. I want to say I'm running for the Court of Appeals. There are 5 separate races for the Court of Appeals in addition to Judge Morgan's race for the Supreme Court. There are 5 separate races for the Court of Appeals. You can vote in each race. I have one opponent, and each person has one opponent. I was born in Wilson, raised in Raleigh. I went to Harvard undergrad, Harvard Law School. I clerked, also been a prosecutor, defense attorney, and a judge. I don't think anyone running has certainly any more broad experience than I do. And what I would bring to the bench is 17 years on the Superior Court bench, where I handled every kind of case that there is, and I'm ready to go forward and do this. I think it's very important that the perspective of one be on the Court of Appeals. They sit in panels of 3, and then whatever they do will go up to the Supreme Court. But about 90% of the work of appeals, from civil and criminal, end in the Court of Appeals. It ends in the Court of Appeals. So what I ask you to do is go study your guides, go to voteabejones.com. You can read about me. You can read about my background. I have represented many, many people. I spend a lot of my time going in and out of jails now, seeing young black men who have been accused of crime. Black men make up 80 to 85% of the criminal justice system. There's not a single African-American male on the Court of Appeals, not one, out of 15 seats, not one. Okay, so if those of us are successful, we will change that. We will get 2 African-American males and a wonderful African-American female judge, so we'll have 4 out of 15, and that would be a big accomplishment. These races, unfortunately, are marked Democrat and Republican. The people in power thought they would be to their advantage. Surprise them.
All right. Angela?
Thank you. I am District Court Judge Angela Foster. I have been your District Court Judge since 2008. That is the year that I was elected by the citizens of Guilford County. And I have served in each and every courtroom on the District Court floor because I have the experience to serve in each and every courtroom. I am a lifelong resident of Guilford County. I am the product of the Guilford County Public School System. My children all attend the Guilford County Public School System. Some have graduated, 2 are still there. That means I have 5 kids. And they're all doing extremely well. I want to be a district court judge because I enjoy my job every day. I enjoy being a district court judge because I'm able to help the citizens of Guilford County. I am the judge that asks the second question, why is this behavior occurring? But I also do civil things. District court is more than just criminal court. It's child neglect. It's that courtroom as well. Everything we do is important. It is not just about putting people in jail. It's about putting people on a better path. That is what I seek to do every day that I am in court, in each and every courtroom. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Randall? Okay.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Randall Jones. I, too, am a district court judge. I've served in that capacity for the last 2 years. I, like Judge Foster, have served in every court. We serve in civil court. We serve in family court. We serve in juvenile court. We serve in traffic court and criminal court. And criminal is just a very small part of it, but there are a number of courts, and I started doing that from the day after I was sworn in. And part of the reason I was able to do that is because of my experience. I, like the other Judge Jones, have quite a bit of a broad experience. I'm a graduate of public schools in Guilford County, a lifelong resident, went to Wake Forest, and when I graduated, I took a different path. I was a law enforcement officer with the Guilford County Sheriff's Department, and I did everything from jailer to patrolman to CSI to detective to patrol lieutenant, commanding a platoon of 18 when I went back to law school. And I went to law school at NC Central, and I got an excellent education there and worked with the Attorney General's office while I was there. When I graduated, I came back to Guilford County and worked as a police attorney for High Point. I was a labor lawyer dealing with labor and employment matters for a number of years. And then I went back to criminal law, representing indigent defendants at the Public Defender's Office in High Point. I did that for 13 years, and during that time, I represented everybody in cases from capital murder down to trespass. I have had an African-American client who was falsely accused of murder and stayed in jail 15 days, but I used my law enforcement background to get the case redirected, to have him exonerated and found not guilty, but his case is dismissed. I know the glitches in the departments and glitches in the system, but my background has helped me to correct those. I've also served as a prosecutor and know the problems of victims. Before I came on the bench, I had my own private practice doing civil and criminal litigation. As I said, I'm a lifelong resident. I enjoy my job and working in the courts. It gives us a chance to protect the rights of the individual, to protect the rights of children, and above all, to protect the Constitution, which protects all of our rights. I'd like to continue doing that. I appreciate your support, and thank you for allowing me to be here today.
All right. Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Cutchin.
Good evening. I'm Tanya Cutchin. I'm a candidate for District Court Judge in the Randall Jones seat, who was actually appointed by Governor McCrory after running in 2004 and 2008 and not winning his election. I first would like to thank my Pastor Emeritus, Bishop Brooks, as well as my church family, Mount Zion Baptist Church, as well as the Civic Engagement Committee for hosting today. I actually began my career as an accountant, and while in an accounting firm in Raleigh, I actually pursued a Master of Business Administration and received a law degree from North Carolina Central University. Upon completing that program, I relocated to Washington, D.C. and served as a corporate attorney for a few years. But I relocated back home to Gifford County, and I've served in Gifford County as an attorney for the last 11 years. I've served in every courtroom in Gifford County, in the state as well as federal courts. I'm still licensed to practice in Washington, D.C., as well as in North Carolina. But more importantly, I'm in the position where I want to make sure that every person, no matter what your social class, the color of your skin, your economic background, you deserve justice, and it should be justice for all, not just for those who can afford it. And that's the reason why after 5 years in private practice, I left private practice to join the public defender's office where I've served for the last 6 years, because I believe that everybody deserves competent legal representation. I currently serve as the district court supervisor, and as a district court supervisor, I manage district court on a daily basis. I constantly step into mental health court, to drug treatment court, as well as juvenile court on a daily basis to make sure that our citizens receive the proper representation that they deserve. I've not only served as an attorney for the last 13 years, but I've also served as a professor for the last 8 years, where I teach business law as well as ethics. Our pastor always tells us here that in order to win the city, you must serve the city. And not only has I served Gifford County as an attorney, but I've also served this community, and I consistently serve on a daily basis. I'm a trustee here at Mount Zion Baptist Church, or Stewart Ministry, I should say. I'm also a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and various other organizations. I'll be glad to happy to entertain your questions. Thank you so very much.
All right. Mary?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'd like to echo what everyone else has said, and thank you all for coming out, for staying this late in the game. I know it's been a long evening for everybody, but it is so hard, especially for us in the judicial races, to get out in front of people and let you know who we are and what we're about. So I appreciate your patience and bearing with us. My name is Miranda Revis, and I am running for District Court Judge here in Guilford County. With all due respect to my opponent, I am the only person in my race that's practiced in every district courtroom in Guilford County, Greensboro, High Point, civil, criminal, adult, juvenile that we operate. I have much more broad range of experience, and that's what makes me the better choice for judge. Personally, I'm a mom. I have 18-month-old boy-girl twins, and they are my passion. They are why I do what I do every day. They are literally the reason I get up every morning, usually because they're crying about 5:30. I want to make the community that my children grow up in, that your children grow up in, a better, stronger, safer place. My other passion is working with veterans. Some of you may have heard I have a younger brother who is a retired Marine. And when he came back from his tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, he had some issues. We as a family were able to recognize that, close in, and get him what he needed, but not everyone has that. When I'm elected in November, I want to start a veterans treatment court, because no one who serves in our military should face hunger or homelessness ever, period. I'm going to ask you guys for your thoughts and for your prayers and for your vote this November. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill?
Good evening. I'm Bill Davis. I want to start by saying that my wife, Dawn, is actually one of those Guilford County school teachers that we were hearing about earlier. She has been doing that for over 20 years. I've been practicing law here with the Public Defender's Office for 18 years. Our family believes deeply in service to our community, and that is what we have dedicated ourselves to, and that's one of the reasons that I am running for District Court Judge. I mentioned 18 years of practicing law. That's more than double the years of experience of my opponent in the courtrooms every day, learning and leading and serving our community. Not only do I have more experience, but I have the skills, the legal skills and abilities to bring to this race, to bring to the people of Guilford County. Our attorneys locally have rated all of the candidates for judge based on the work that they see them doing in the courtroom each and every day. Anonymous surveys, so they have no one to fear or no one to reward. And in every category that they rate, I'm rated higher than my opponent. Not only do I have experience, not only do I have the skills to offer, but I have a deep involvement with our local community. I have volunteered with our Guilford County Teen Court, which is associated with One Step Further, taking young folks who are perhaps taking that first step off the path into trouble and redirecting them onto a better path with life skills classes, with community service, with the opportunity to not only learn to do better themselves, but then to give back themselves by serving as jurors in that teen court program. I have volunteered with our Homeless Veterans Stand Down event, for veterans that are experiencing homelessness, who have given so much to our community, the opportunity to give back and serve them and help them in their time of need. I've served locally with Greensboro Urban Ministry, serving meals to the folks in our community that are experiencing homeless. My family and I, my wife and I, we have a passion to serve the people of our community, to lift up the people who are in need. And I ask for your help and your support to do that as a district court judge. Thank you.
All right, Mark? You can use, okay, either one.
Good evening. My name is Mark Tyree, and I am also running for district court judge in the Samet seat. Bishop, I want to thank you and the church leaders and the church members for putting this event on. As I've sat here today, one of the things I've thought is, wow, what if all these folks here came to district court one day to watch what goes on and make an impact? That's what I thought about. In 1997, when I got my law degree, I would have never thought I would be here tonight asking all of you for your vote. I would have never thought as a young prosecutor that one day I would have owned my own law firm. But both those things are true. I want to serve this community. I want to be the kind of judge that you deserve. And if elected, I have the humility to know that I'm not perfect. None of us are perfect. And it's that humility that would guide me every day to make sure that what I did was try my hardest to get it right, not be the one who is right. I have literature back there. I'm going to spare you the long litany of where I've been, what I've done, and who's endorsed me. You can read that. I thank all of you for taking an interest in being here tonight. Thank you.
All right. Okay, Mark with a K.
Mark with a K. I want to thank Bishop Brooks and the family of Mount Zion Baptist Church. I am grateful to call Mount Zion home. I am glad to be amongst individuals who I consider family. My name is Mark Cummins, and I'm running for the Samet seat. And the reason that I'm running for district court judge is that I believe that the disparity in the justice system is the civil rights issue of my time. Discrimination no longer looks like pit bulls and water hoses. It looks like that pipeline that are sending our kids from high school to prison. It looks like the fear in the mother's eyes who are scared when she sends her kids out there on the streets and don't know if they're going to come back home if they're stopped by police officers. That is the reason that I'm running for district court judge, because I believe that justice is not blind, but it could be, but it should be, and the scales of justice are not balanced, but it should be. Now, I am Greensboro. I am Guilford County. Born here, grew up off of Autumn Drive, Phillips Avenue, went to public school, graduated from James Benson Dudley, grew up in a single-parent female home. And what I learned there is that where you start out in life is not where you have to end up. But when the scales are against you, it's hard to be successful here. I am running for district court judge because I believe wholeheartedly that each of us have skin in the game. On November 18th of 2015, my wife gave birth to twin girls, Addie and Evie. And honey, you stayed home for us tonight, and I'm very thankful for that. You are my rock. That gave me skin in the game. I don't want them growing up in a city or a country where they're second-class citizens. I don't want them growing up in the world. Can you hear me?
Okay.
I don't want them growing up in the world where they're scared to go outside and behave as other children do. I want them growing up in a world that they know that they will be treated fairly and equally as every other citizen. Lastly, I'll say this. When you're looking at determining what kind of person has experience, numerical numbers is not what give you experience. Trial by fire is what give you experience. I've been tried by fire, and I want your support.
All right, David?
Thank you, Bishop. And I, too, want to thank the church for having us out. It's very important that we know who our candidates are in all races. But as was mentioned earlier, especially in our judges' races, so few people know the judges, and it is a very important job and an important role, so we need to be educated. I am Judge David Sherrill. I have the pleasure of being one of your current district court judges. I'm married to Liz Sherrill. Liz is a 27-plus year teacher here in Guilford County. For 25 years, she was teaching at Pleasant Garden. She was Liz Wakeland for many of those years. She's been at George C. Simpkins Elementary for this is her third year there, the new school. Where have I come from? How did I get here? Well, let's go back to, I'm an Eagle Scout, I'm a registered nurse, I'm a lawyer, and I'm a judge. Nothing I've done has been easy. It's taken hard work, determination, perseverance to push through some very hard times to achieve all that I've done. And again, it's not been without the work being put in. As a nurse, I'm a 23-year registered nurse. Before starting practicing law, I was an intensive care nurse for 10 years, which is where I really started working with people going through hard times, difficult times in their lives, and that's what we deal with on a daily basis in the courtrooms. Sometimes we in the court system take these cases for granted because we see them all the time, but these are tough times for people, and we realize that. As a lawyer, I've been a lawyer for over 14 years. The last year and a half has been as a judge, and I've really enjoyed my job. Again, I put forth the effort, the hard work, and I am determined to do that going forward for you, for the people of this county, and I ask for your support in keeping my job. Thank you.
All right, Laura?
Good evening, Mount Zion. I also would like to thank the Civic engagement team, Mount Zion, and Bishop Brooks for having us out here. As one of my colleagues said, it's so often in this race we don't get to come out as judicial candidates and tell you about ourselves. I am Laura Cubbage. I'm running for District Court Judge for the Sherrill seat, and I'd like to thank David for a clean race. We've had a great, great campaign journey, and I'd like to say thank you again. I went to A&T here for undergrad, went to Carolina for my law school degree. I'm just as experienced as everyone else, but what you, as a resident, should want to hear is, what is it that I'd like to see happen on the district court judicial bench if I'm elected? Well, what I'd like to do is I'd like to continue to work, as I do in the community, to bridge gaps. I'd like to continue to work in the organizations, creating programs to develop children, and I'd like to make decisions on the bench by applying the law with no biases and change futures. The good thing that you've heard today is almost from the top to the bottom of the issues that we face in Guilford County and the state of North Carolina. When you hear about the education cuts, the job cuts, the profiling, the this and the that you've heard up here, it all trickles down to what goes on in the district court courtrooms, from families that are broken, from children that are broken, from victims and defendants that are broken. And they all need and want an opportunity to be heard. They want someone that cares about their concerns, that knows their needs, and that is willing to serve them, not just in a 9-to-5 capacity on a bench or in an office, but get out into the communities and actually listen and hear them. I am that candidate, and I've been out there for over 20 years. I respectfully and humbly ask for your vote on November the 8th and an early voting, which starts Thursday. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to say this, and then we'll move to your question. When I was growing up, I wanted to be a trial attorney, and that didn't happen. I wanted to be a good businessman, kind of, sort of. Then I wanted to be a comedian, so the Lord called me to preach. So I have some of y'all's genes, but I know all of you know the law. Otherwise, you wouldn't be up here. I want to ask a different question. Can you describe a situation which you took a controversial position that angered or offended your peers or the court, and how did you handle it? I'll start with you, Laura.
a controversial situation. When I was a district court assistant district attorney here in Guilford, which I served for 5 years doing that, I had a vehicular homicide case. And in vehicular homicide, someone has done something to break the law, probably an infraction, but in doing that, in this particular case, the young man crossed the center line and ended up killing the driver in the next car. You're often looked at as, what are you going to do about this? From the family that has lost a loved one through no fault of their own. This young man was on his way to Duke University to play football. There's many things as an assistant DA that you can do or not do according to the law. And what I did was, instead of just strictly applying the law, I brought these families together because I saw more than just the law that needed to be applied. I saw healing that needed to take place. And the outcome, and I'm so thankful for this, was the family asking that nothing happened to this young man, but he be allowed to go on to play football at Duke. And to this very day, he has graduated from Duke, and he still keeps in contact with that family.
Thank you. All right. All right.
That is a very difficult question for a sitting judge. We have rules that say we can't talk about cases that
Okay.
are or may come before the court.
Okay. Well, tell me about your wife that you didn't agree with. No, I'm only kidding.
But I wanted, I never want it to seem like I'm avoiding a question or evading a question. And I think what came to mind is this is a nonpartisan race.
Right.
It's a nonpartisan job. A judge is charged with being fair and independent, that they take the facts of every case, apply it to the law, and make a decision about that particular case. I have a lot of friends in the legal community, and sometimes you can imagine an attorney might come before the judge, says, I know David Sherrill, we go way back, I'm sure he's going to side with me in this case, and then he looks over and another one of David Sherrill's friends are in the courtroom. And everyone who's come before me so far, I believe, realizes they don't know how that's going to turn out. Because there's always two sides of every story in a courtroom. And it's the judge's role to listen to the facts, apply the law to the case, and make a decision accordingly. So, controversial. Every person I know in the legal community comes before me wondering what I'm going to do today because you have to be fair and independent.
Thank you. Mark?
Great question. Because this is a very good question. I want the audience to hear my answer. As probably one of the most successful criminal defense trial attorneys, most of my cases are controversial. And one of the reasons that they are controversial is because I don't believe that your default position should be to please your client in. I believe that you should go out and investigate every case as if that defendant was your family member, and I do that. And I try a lot of cases, and I win those cases, and it seems to me that there is some people who do not like that about me. They don't like that I do my job. They don't like that I try cases. They don't like that I hold the state to its burden of proof, proving guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. I think that's the most important thing in our judicial system, that it takes a lot to take away a person's liberty. It takes a lot to give them a record. I will hold people accountable, even if people do not like me. I always say this: some people are more worried about the words that are written in the newspaper than those that are written in the Constitution. I will not be that type of judge.
All right, Mark with a C.
Thank you. Bishop, I feel like I take controversial positions every day. As an advocate, that's what we do. But the one thing that came to mind was more of a learning experience, but it was a bit controversial, not in the community context, but with regard to the job I did at the time. I was a young prosecutor. I think I'd been in the job maybe 3 weeks. I was in the courtroom, an officer pulled me out of the courtroom. I was getting ready to dismiss his case because that was my prerogative based on what I had heard. The officer told me, I've been doing this a lot longer than you. If I charge them, they're guilty. Now, he was a good police officer. He retired. We're friends. But he was wrong about that, because the job of a prosecutor was not to convict, to seek justice. I went back in that courtroom and I dismissed that case. And I learned that day that I had what it takes. It was a bit controversial, but I did the right thing. That's what I'll do as a judge.
Okay. Thank you. Bill?
Thank you. So, as a public defender, I walk into a courtroom every day ready to fight as hard as I need to fight for my client. And sometimes that means standing up to a police officer. Sometimes it means standing up to a district attorney. Sometimes it means standing up to a judge who has the wrong thing in mind. And I'm in there every day doing it and ready to do it as much as I have to get the right outcomes for my client the best that I absolutely can. That's a general outlook, but you're asking for a specific story, right? I'll tell you one. I had a case one time, and I looked at the evidence, I looked at the fact, I said, they had no reason to stop this man. The only reason this officer stopped this man is because of the color of his skin. And I filed a motion to suppress that evidence. I went into that courtroom and I fought that motion out. I didn't win, but I fought it out. And that officer walked out mad because he thought I was calling him a racist. The judge was mad because I was raising that issue. The DA was mad. Every single person in that room was mad at me except for maybe one. My client said, you stood up for me. You did what was right even though nobody else in there liked it. That's what I have. That's what I do every day. And not only that, but later that day, I ran into one of our bailiffs in the hallway when no one else was around and he didn't have to kind of show face for the other law enforcement. And he said, you know what? None of those other folks liked what you did, but if I'd been in that situation and you'd been my lawyer, I would have wanted somebody fighting for me just as hard as you were.
All right, Mary?
I spent my first 2.5 years in the public defender's office as our juvenile public defender. And juvenile cases are incredibly difficult for a number of reasons. You have parents involved, a lot of times schools are involved, DSS is occasionally involved. There's just multiple agencies, and it's a very tenuous walk. I had 2 young ladies in very short succession. I believe they were even the same week, both of whom were strip searched at school in front of a male administrator. So overwhelmingly not okay. And I went to the then prosecutor and I said, you have to dismiss these cases because they are unconstitutional for so many reasons. I need a PowerPoint presentation to explain them all to you. And she said, absolutely not. The girls they found what they were looking for. I said, I don't care. I don't care. And I'll spare you all the gory details of how it happened. Ultimately, both cases were dismissed, and the Greensboro Police Department subsequently changed their policy on how and when those are done. So that's one that I take home that I'm very proud of.
Okay. Tanya?
Well, thank you so much for the question. And it seems as if, as I walk into the courtroom every day, I seem like I face a controversial issue to the point where I'm known as the queen of cross-examination in the courtroom. Because every single time that my client walks through that door, he is either targeted or, I would say, in a position where he's judged before he even opens his mouth. And I had a situation where I actually was retained on a case. It was a criminal matter where my client was charged with 13 counts of armed robbery. And I will tell you, he was only 13 years of age. Now, North Carolina is one of the last states in the country where if you're charged as 16 years of age, you're in adult court. You're not a juvenile. And the fact is, even though he was only 13 years of age, they tried him as an adult. By the time I received the case, he had already been in a position where he was in the adult criminal courtroom, not in the actual juvenile courts any longer. He faced mental health issues. He had a whole host of issues that I can't explain at this particular point, but the fact is, I'm a single parent of a 13-year-old, and I see and looked in his eyes every single day and saw something was missing. He didn't have the environment around him. He didn't have the love, the affection, the care, someone that actually felt that he was in a position where every single day he needed to be in school or in a position where he actually needed to be looking forward to some kind of career alternative or even higher education. But the fact is, I fought every single day to make sure he stayed in the juvenile detention center, not in the adult courtroom or not in the adult prison. Because the fact is, he's 13 years of age. How could he coexist in an adult criminal jail and let alone adult criminal courtroom? The fact is, I won't give you the details of what happened in this case, but I will just tell you this. His family and even the victims were very satisfied with how I handled this situation because granted, in this situation, they did lose personal belongings, but the fact is we face an issue every single day with mental health. We face issues every day with our children, and the fact is we need to address them individually and not have these preconceived notions of what will occur or should occur based upon the color of their skin.
Thank you. All right. Randall?
Two things come to mind. One, as an attorney, and let me preface this with the fact that I am truly an animal lover. I grew up in the rural county. I had dogs, cats, horses, and everything, and I was appointed years ago to a case where there was an extreme case of animal cruelty. It was in the papers. The other attorney had to step down or could not handle it, and there was a lot of controversy of how you could represent someone. I represented them the diligent way that they needed to be represented, and I got the result that it should have had in that case. I felt like there was a lot of things that were being done in that case because of the media. The end result was members here went to the legislature and changed the law and upped the punishment. So that was controversial, but I did the right thing. That I gave the defense that was needed. The other case is I've served the community as a mayor for 18 years, and during my service as mayor, we have a lot of planning and zoning meetings, and controversial one happened years ago. I have churches in my constituency that were African American, and they had purchased or attempting to purchase property and rezone it for community centers, much like you have here. It was in a very location that was very different. It was not where their church was, and it became controversial. And I had to preside over the planning and zoning hearing, and I ensured that the rules were followed, and I ensured that the law was followed. And it was rezoned for them, and it was done, and the signs are up there now for their building projects, and I'm proud of that.
All right. Angela?
Thank you. I work in the courtroom, we call it 2C, where people are charged with felonies, and hopefully those felonies will be reduced to misdemeanors. A lot of deals are cut in that room. A gentleman came before me several years ago, and he was pleading down from a Class H felony to a Class A1, I believe, misdemeanor. And so his attorney began to speak, and he told me the story about this young man. This young man was he was a senior at North Carolina A&T State University. He was an engineering major. In fact, in several more months, he would be a graduate. But on this particular occasion, he was in a store. There had been a great amount of cash that was laid out on the counter. The storekeeper turned his back, and he took the money. He walked out of the building and had the money in his pocket. He got about 2 blocks away. And I guess the Lord came over him, and he turned around, and he went back into the establishment and returned the money. But the shopkeeper had already contacted the police, and he was charged. So the attorney told that story. He also told me about his grade point average. And he brought the documentation to show me that this young man had a 4.2 GPA, that he was going places. He was an engineer. He has already been offered jobs at DuPont. He has already had several job offers, not just DuPont, but there was the one that he brought the letter to verify that had happened. So I brought the attorneys up, the prosecutor, as well as the defense attorney. I said, you all can't work this out. You can't put him in the first offenders program. He doesn't have a record, and you want to give him a record, and he's about to graduate from college, an engineering major? He walked away with all that money, Judge, the prosecutor told me. I said, he turned around and changed his mind, and the shopkeeper got every one of those dollars back. Not some of it, not a little bit of it, but all of it back. No, we don't want to do that. He needs to understand, he needs to accept responsibility for his actions. Well, I'm sure that he accepts responsibility for his actions, but can we do something else? Can we give him some community service work hours where he can go out into his community and teach other young men how to make that choice? That even if you do make that choice, you can change your mind. You can be given a second opportunity. No, Judge, we don't want to do that. And the defense attorney looked at me, I've tried, I've taught this a million times. I said, well, listen, I'm not accepting the plea. And they looked at me and they stood back. Well, we'll just put it before somebody else. I said, you can put it before somebody else, but today, he's not getting that record.
All right. Mr. Abe Jones.
Yes, I served on the bench in Wade County as a Superior Court judge for 17 years. And I think I was known as a very independent judge. In fact, one of the reasons I'm no longer a judge in Wade County because I was so independent that it offended some members of the bench. One of them helped organize a campaign against me, and I lost my election. What I learned is you stand up for what you believe in.